officially mine. I got him, it was a Wednesday. I remember the day. It was November 11th of last year, because that was the only day that my dad wasn't working. And then I trained him, and I was working on the ground with him for about a month, and the first time that I officially rode him was like December 17th, I think. Hobby farm, and his kids used to ride before they moved out, so they had a barn and places for horses. So he made this deal with a summer camp in Kingston that he would take their horses over the winter, since they were only a summer camp. They didn't have any use for horses in the winter, so they would be shipped to my friend's place to just kind of hang out. And they had this giant pasture, and there wasn't a barn, but there was a little run-in where they could go and just kind of hang out. So one year it was only Ashes that came for the winter, and then in the spring they decided to just not show up to pick them back up. So my friend tried to get in contact with them, and their lines were disconnected. So we don't know what happened to that place, but then Ashes was kind of in the care of my friend. Except at that point, no one on the farm was riding horses anymore, so Ashes was just kind of chilling in a field by himself for like 3 years. So he wasn't being ridden at all for 3.5 years before I got him. He was just kind of sitting in a pasture, just chilling by himself. And then, so my friend ended up, he was pretty old, I think in his 60s, 70s, I'm not sure, but he had a problem with his heart, so he had to be hospitalized, and they didn't have anyone to take care of the horse anymore, so they figured that they would put this horse, or give this horse away to someone else before he passed away. So he ended up talking to my dad, and then we arranged the whole thing, and I went out to see him, and everything just ended up working out. So he was hospitalized on, I think, Sunday, and then we went up to get him on the Wednesday and brought him here, and then he ended up passing away the next week. So I'm like so grateful that we were able to take him before that happened. But I mean, now that he's here, I was working with him on the ground for about a month because he had no idea what was going on. When I got him, he was super skinny. You could see his rib cage because he wasn't being fed anything other than just the grass that he got in the field. And his hooves were square because he hadn't gotten them done because he wasn't being ridden. There was no need for it. And his teeth were, he had maybe like 5 or 6 chipped teeth that had to be fixed because he hadn't seen a vet in forever. And so many things. And we got his eyes looked at, and we found out he was blind, and we got some medication to hopefully slow it down so that he can keep the very little sight that he has left. But it's pretty much where we are now. Okay, it was 100% right away. The first time I saw him, like I knew he was gonna be mine, because he would be like, I lucked out so much because I had always said that the horse I wanted them not to be too tall, but taller than a pony, and he's like 15'2". I wanted them to be kind of fat, and he's very, very chubby. His saddle's an extra wide, but that's okay. And I wanted a gray with black legs, which is what he is, even though he's an Appaloosa, so he has kind of the spots. He's super cute. And oh my goodness, like the first time I saw him, I walked up to him and he just put his head like right against me, and he was so cute. And like he came and like walked right up to us as soon as we went out into the field. He came from the very back and walked right up to us. Like he was just so sweet. And I remember when we were picking him up, the owner of this place, Renee, came with his trailer so that we could bring him over to Maplewood, and I remember him saying that it might take a couple tries to get him in the trailer, that it wasn't going to be a schoolie load. And so I was like, okay, we'll see how this goes. But I walked right on, and he hesitated for not even half a second before just following me, and I was just amazed. And at that point I didn't know he was blind, so like now thinking back that he did all of that without being able to see, he just completely followed me, and like he got off the trailer perfectly fine. He was backing up right away. Like he was just like so special and just so like trusting of everything. And I feel like that's one of the things about having a blind horse, is that he doesn't know what's going on, so he kind of has to trust that you have his best interests and that you're gonna lead him and show him where to go, and that he can trust you completely, like right off the start. No, I did not even know that he was blind when I got Fun fact, I bought a horse without knowing he was blind. So when I went to see him the first time, I could tell there was a problem with his eyes, because they were both like really draining, and like you can tell if you look into it, it looks kind of like when dogs get really old and their eyesight starts going, how it's kind of cloudy, and like there's like, it looks like kind of opaque. So one of his eyes looked like that, and then one of his eyes was draining like crazy, and you could see like the line running down his cheek. So I knew there was something not right. But yeah, once I got him, we ended up doing a lot of research. It was very weird because it's not something that you encounter normally. He's the first horse without sight that I've ever met. I think the biggest thing for me that we've kind of had to deal with is that you can't change what you're asking of him. Because in the very beginning, I was kind of very soft, and I was very like, oh, he's blind, it's okay, he's okay, like, we just like won't do that, he's blind, I won't ask him to do that. But then you kind of realize that it doesn't change what you ask for, it just changes how you ask for it. So certain things where when I'm riding him, I use my reins more than I normally would, because his head has to go in whatever direction he's going, his body follows his head. Whereas with a normal horse, I try to use my legs more. So it's just a couple little things that you kind of have to just change the way you think about asking him. He's very not normal. So like even whenever a couple of my friends have ridden him, I kind of have to tell them like, you know nothing about horses anymore. And you kind of have to start from scratch and just figure it out as you go along. But like we've kind of figured out a way that works for us. And he's special. Like some of the things he does, I'm kind of concerned about, but I mean, we make it work. I think we can do pretty much anything. I mean, it's difficult because I'm struggling with pushing him to meet our full potential and not pushing him too far, because once he kind of reaches that point, he starts kind of getting really stressed out because he wants so badly to do what's being asked of him, but sometimes it takes him a while to figure it out, or he can't do it, and then he starts getting really frustrated and really angry, and then we just kind of have to take a step back. But I think it would be completely possible for him to jump eventually. I've seen him jump before without me on him, which that's a story. But he can do poles now, and as long as he sees what's in front of him, he's been pretty good about stepping over everything. So I think he'll be able to jump. So I'm not sure about competing with him, because he gets a little excited around other horses. Stay with them, because just because your horse is losing their sight or going blind or is blind, that doesn't mean that they can't do anything that a normal horse is doing. I think my horse is one of the smartest horses that I've ever met, and I love him so much. He's perfect. But just don't give up on them, and don't try to make shortcuts. Because one thing that a lot of people do when they have blind horses is they get kind of a companion horse that gets, and then this companion horse would kind of do everything and be the leader while the blind one just kind of follows along. But that I don't think is as good of an idea as just letting them figure it out for themselves. And maybe that's a good thing, where Ashes was by himself for years and years, just in the pastures, because he had to figure out how to kind of work by himself and how to figure out how much he could see and what he could see, how he could see it. So you can tell that he kind of does things a little bit differently, even when he's in the field when you're riding, because he knows what he needs to do to be able to see. But if you end up getting a companion horse, then your horse can kind of give up on sight altogether, because they can just follow along with this horse that's showing them everything what to do. So that's one of the things that I'm actually happy that he was by himself for a little bit, because he could kind of figure out that he does still need his vision, he does still need to figure things out for himself, and that way I can kind of trust that when he's by himself, either in his stall or in the pasture, that he's gonna be okay, he's not gonna like kill himself. But don't get a companion horse too soon. If you feel like you have to, once all of their vision is gone, and go ahead, that's totally fine, but just don't give up on your horse, because they still have so much potential, and they can do so much more than anyone would ever think normally. Okay, so when I got him, he had probably like 15-20% vision left. And then one day while I was working, he somehow managed to escape from his paddock and get out of his blanket. And I think he ran into something along the way. I'm not totally sure. But he was, I found him running back and forth in the very back, and he was just crazy. So I got back there, and he stopped and he kind of looked at me, and this was maybe a month or two after I gotten him. And so I go up to him, and he was shaking, he was sweating, he was shaking. It was freezing cold that day, and I could tell that his one eye, that was his good eye, was like really red, and it was draining, and like I was terrified. It was probably like the scariest moment in my life, and I thought he was gonna lose it because it looked like it was bleeding. So I brought him inside, and I kind of rinsed it with a cloth, and we had the vet come out the next day, and that's when his good eye started going downhill. So right now he's probably at 5 or 10%. So he kind of had to readjust, because he was so used to having that 20. He had that for so long that, like I said, he figured out how to see with it. So now he had to kind of get used to seeing with even less of a vision range. So you could tell when he was in his stall, he was trying to figure out his way around, trying to find the hay. And what he would do, he would stick his nose out as far as he could and move it side to side to see if there's anything there, and then take a step forward. And then he would do the same thing. He would stick his nose out and feel around. There was nothing there, so he would take a step forward. Until one time he stuck his nose out, hit the wall, and then just stood there. And I watched him do that for maybe half an hour, and he found the dimensions of his stall, and he just walked almost the entire perimeter of his stall, trying to feel where the walls were. And then after he made it all the way around, well, he was fine after that, and he knew where everything was, and he would walk around like normal, and he wouldn't run into anything. So like, it's just little things like that where I'm like, he's amazing. Like, I don't know how he does it. He's crazy. Like, I swear he counts the steps or something, because he knows exactly where he's going. Like, he's so weird. Oh my goodness, he chipped my tooth once. That's another story. I don't remember what we were doing, but I was just like standing there, and he was getting impatient, and he swung his head and hit me and there's a little metal like buckle on his halter, and he hit me with the buckle like right in my tooth, and it chipped my front tooth. I had to go get it filled. So, I mean, that happened. He turned my foot green because he stomped on it. He felt really bad about it after, and I could tell because he stomped on it and then immediately like picked his foot back up, and then he just like looked at me with like the saddest expression on his face. I was like, oh, it's okay. Yeah, my foot was really bruised and it turned green. That was not fun. Oh man.